you ever call to your neighbour's house and you knew that something was up? It was 5 o'clock in the evening and I had the day off work. I decided I'd call over to the neighbours. Knock knock. Anybody at home? It's not like the married couple to not be home on a Tuesday. Plus the car was in the driveway. Their pride and joy. A 1998 Toyota started with a beautiful blue spoiler. With side skirts on it. Lovely car. A machine that meant the world to the beautiful couple who'd been married all their life. I could see a light on upstairs. A soft bedside light. Were they having sex? I had to find out. The couple who were in their late 70s had always said to me, "The back door is always open for you, Owen." So I decided to go around the back. But the door was locked. I heard a noise upstairs. Thankfully, I had my own key, so I let myself in. I was now stood in the kitchen. Hello? But no response. I had a quick look in the fridge to see when they'd been shopping last. A nice neighbourly thing to do. They had that nice coleslaw and white bread, so I made a quick sandwich. Suddenly, I heard the answer machine play. It was herself calling. Beep. Hey love, won't be home tonight. Staying over at Eileen's. There's some food in the fridge. Bye. If the wife wasn't at home, then who was Jimmy with upstairs? Was he having an affair at the tender age of 76? I munched down the sandwich and went to check. I could hear giggles from upstairs. I crept slowly up the carpet stairs, not making a sound. There were 3 rooms upstairs. Theirs was the room in the middle, the biggest room. The biggest of all 3 rooms. How do I know that? Can't tell you. I don't want to tell you. I could hear moaning and giggling coming from the room. I had a feeling Jimmy may have been in there with Helen, the manager of the credit union. She was kinky and fancied the arse off Jimmy. I put my ear up to the door. The bed was creaking. The moaning was getting louder. Ooh, Jimmy, yes. Then Jimmy said, "Sarah, put on something shorter." I burst into the room shouting, "How could you do this to Eileen and to a lesser extent the reputation of your family?" Jimmy turned with a shock. "It's not what it looks like." "Oh no, Jimmy? Then who's Sarah?" "She's a robot." "What?" "I don't comprehend, Jimmy. What are you talking about, mate? Don't play me, Jimmy, or I'm telling your beautiful wife, a woman who I also fancied." Jimmy pulled back the cover to reveal something that shocked me. He was in bed with Siri, the talking AI lady. But why had he no jocks on? "Explain the lack of fabric around your nether region, Jim." "I can't," he said. "Well then, kiss your relationship to Eileen goodbye," I said as I took the last bite out of my lovely coleslaw sandwich. "Please," he said, "she mustn't find out. If she does, our marriage will be over." "Oh, don't worry, Jimmy. She's finding out the truth tonight, whether you and Siri like it or not," I said. "Your marriage was over the minute you got into bed with a robot. Now put on a pair of jocks. You're making me sick." I tossed him a pair of Calvin Klein classics that I keep in my back pocket at all times. "Here, keep them. I just get myself a new pair, you sick bastard." As I left, I slammed the door, and as I was leaving the house, I texted Eileen. "He's bonking the robot, Eileen." She simply texted back, "It was bound to happen someday." What's up? It's your boy, Mr. Owen Colgan. How we doing? I hope you're doing well. I've been doing very badly recently. I recently got circumcised. Okay, that never happened, but I just wanted to make you guys feel sorry for me. Why do I want you guys to feel sorry for me? I just thought that might be a nice way for us to get to know each other. Guard is down. Oh, what happened, Colgan? Yeah, someone took the fucking lid of his pipe off. Oh no. Seemed like a nice fella. Ah, no, he is a nice fella. Have you seen his podcast? Yeah, it's not bad. It's getting there. He's trying his best. So please don't judge him. I don't know who's having this conversation, but if you are talking to your friends in the coming days or weeks and they ask you to recommend them a podcast, just say, check out the Owen Colgan podcast. Exactly what it says in the tin. Ron Seal job. But then I think, who the fuck do I think I am? Joe Rogan? Speaking of which, I want to say it from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Joe, for everything. Joe doesn't get enough credit. There's too many people out there slagging off Joe, saying, oh, he's this, that and the other. He shouldn't have went to Spotify for 100 million. You would do the same. And if Spotify, if you listen to this podcast, mate, give me a call because I will do the same. And this is not me trying to weed in on top of Joe Rogan's pile of money, because God knows he doesn't need it. You don't fucking need the money, Joe. But if anyone's out there on Spotify or wherever else, give me a call. My number is on my Bebo page. And speaking of Bebo, nobody ever talks about Bebo anymore. People are too cool for Bebo. It's all about TikTok nowadays. But back in the day, Bebo was the forefather of all social media. Well, it wasn't really. MySpace probably was. Or maybe Messenger or MSN or whatever. But Bebo was like the middle child. And it was a great website where you'd upload pictures, just like Facebook, you'd upload pictures. But the problem in those days is that, see, nobody had smartphones. So if you were uploading a picture, you'd have to get it lifted into town. And you'd have to bring the picture with you. Not like carrying a fucking picture around with you, but you'd have to have an SD card or something with you. And then there'd be a queue of people using the one laptop in town, in the library or wherever. Maybe one rich lad from America might have a laptop, or some English lad that came into money. And you'd be there in the library going, will you fucking hurry up there? I've got a picture to upload of me down the river. Come on. Because you wanted people to see you. You really wanted people to see you out doing stuff. Because there's a lot of mystery going back. Nowadays, mystery's gone. You're walking down the road, you see a pigeon. You take a picture of the pigeon. People know that you've took a picture of a pigeon. You're having your dinner. You made something special. Spaghetti alla bolognese. You take a picture. You upload it. You meet that person in town the next day. Oh, I seen you had a bit of spaghetti. I did, yeah. Was it nice? No. But the picture was good. But back in those days, you would go into town, you'd go on Bebo, you'd upload your pictures, you'd come back into town about a week later, you'd have 3 messages. Brilliant. Can't believe you went down to the river. And it was a lot slower. But they were the good days. They were the days the Hardy Bucks. We started off in Bebo. But back in those days, that's how you picked up, if you were trying to get the hop, we'll say. You'd say to somebody, are you on Bebo? And they'd be like, yeah. Can I add you? You can do, yeah. And then you'd add them. And then you'd have the slowest conversation known to man, because you'd only be talking to them once every 2 weeks. So it'd be impossible really, because both you'd be blowing hot and cold till it got to a point where you're like, who's this I'm talking to? And nowadays it's all instant. You send a message on Instagram, you do your voice, you send a video, you send a picture, straight away you got it. Facebook, TikTok is all the rage now. It's like YouTube on steroids. Chinese company. And the Americans are scared of it because they're thinking, what are they doing with the information? They've got all these profiles loaded onto it. What are they going to do with the information? But sure, I'll say this to you. Would you trust the Americans or the Chinese? That's one of the biggest questions you're ever going to face. But I'll tell you one thing now, right? I met a woman on Facebook. And it was the way to meet people, you see. You know, you'd meet, there was no Tinder, there was no Plenty of Fish, there was none of these other websites, Bumble or any of these other ones. And the town I grew up in, you see, we all kind of knew each other. So everyone was sick of looking at each other. So the internet was just getting big at this point. People were going online, people were putting up pictures of themselves, and, you know, it was opening up a whole new world to people you'd never met. And there was this thing on Facebook called Are You Interested? I went on there, the Boo was on there as well, and we'd be talking to women from around the world. I'm talking Zambian women, Swedish women, Australian women, Mexican women. And we'd be talking to them nearly every fucking day, trying to get to know them, you know. And I started talking to this one lady in particular, and I had a notepad computer at the time, a really small laptop, about the size of a duck. And I used to write to her every single day. And sometimes we'd spend 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours talking. And my mates would be like, who are you talking to there? And even my parents would be like, what are you doing down the room? And it looks very dodgy. If your son is locked in his room with the laptop, shouting at your parents going, don't come in here without knocking. It wasn't as bad as they were thinking. But at the same time, they had no idea that I was talking to a lady in Mexico. Kept it a secret. We'd been chatting for a long time. I had a great connection to her. Everything felt fresh. So we continued chatting anyways, and the boys were like, oh, I don't know about that, lads. Don't know. The boys were like, I don't know about that now. You know, it's a long way. I was like, no, fuck it, I'm going to Mexico. I'm fucking heading off to Mexico, and none of you boys can stop me. So I said to the lady, I said, do you mind if I go over to Mexico to see you? She's like, no, come on over, I'd love to see you. I was like, brilliant. I'll be over there next week. So I booked the flights. I think they were about 450 quid. Thinking I was saving money, but the flight went from Ireland to Germany, Germany to Canada, and then Canada down to Merida, which is in the Yucatan, close to Cancun and all those spots. The places that the Americans go to get steamed up. So I flew into Germany, not too bad. Flew over to Canada. Then I flew over to Canada, and that was about 8 hours. And then in Canada, there was like a 6-hour layover. And then finally, the flight to Mexico. I was on the final lap. And I was up there in the sky, and I was sitting next to a priest. It was only a short enough flight. I think it was 2 or 3 hours. I remember the priest saying to me, he was like a Canadian priest, so he was sexy. And he says to me, what are you doing coming over to Mexico? And I said to him, I'm going over playing football. I didn't want him knowing that I met a girl on the internet and I was flying thousands of kilometres across the world. My family didn't even know I was in Mexico. They thought I was in Donegal. So I didn't want to tell the priest what I was doing. None of his fucking business. And I didn't want to get him turned on by the story, because it's kind of a sexy story when you think about it. An Irish man flying over to Mexico to meet the woman of his dreams. That's sexy. That still turns me on. So I told him I played for some random made-up football team. He knew I was lying. Not only because he's a priest, but because I never made eye contact with him once, so he kind of knew the crack. Anyways, landed in then to Merida Airport. Went through the customs, they scanned me and everything like that, and picked up my bag. And there she was, with her 2 mates, standing there smiling over. And I thought to myself, she told me she's going to be here alone. I'm kind of fucking nervous now. But anyways, threw the bag in my back, walked over to them. How are you getting on? ¿Cómo estás? And they were like, ¿qué? And they kind of looked at me, kind of half smiling. I was like, all right, I've actually come over to the wrong group of people altogether. So I embarrassed myself straight away. In the door of Mexico, embarrassed myself straight away. This is on top of the place being boiling hot. When I landed into the place, I remember thinking, is there heat coming out of somewhere? But the place was about 35 degrees when I landed. Anyways, there she was. And I walked over to her, and she smiled at me, and I smiled back. And it was a bit awkward. So I said to myself, I'll do what I did in the discos. I'll stick the head in. So we started shifting there and then in the airport. And it was like the beginning of a Hugh Grant movie. I closed my eyes for a bit, she closed her eyes. We started kissing passionately. Now this is the person that I've been talking to for about 3 years on the internet. There we were in the airport, shifting. And there was Mexican lads looking at us going, what's going on there? But I didn't really care because I was just happy to be getting the shift. Because never mind Tinder. You know when you're on Tinder and you're swiping and you meet somebody and you match up with them and you're like getting on great on the internet, and then you think, what if we don't get on when we meet up? This was 3 years of that. I was fucking scared shitless. We started kissing, so that was the good thing to do anyway. Then we walked out to the car holding hands. Now, when I got outside, just automatically started sweating. And for the next month, I was sweating the whole time. We went over to her car, did a bit more kissing. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was a small bit fucking horny. So I said, what's the plan now? She said, do you want to get a bit of food? So I said, yeah, let's get a bit of grub, I'm starving. And we went to this small cafe in the middle of Merida. There was lads on bikes zipping by, there was boys drinking bottles of Sol, there was fellas playing music, and there was all the colours of the world, and the heat was on, and music was playing, and people dancing, and people fucking eating stuff, and stuff you'd never see. And I remember my senses were just on point 100%, but I was trying to look cool. So we got the food into us anyways. My stomach was a bit dodgy because it's quite spicy. And then she said, come on, let's go back to the house. So I thought to myself, oh yeah, I know where this is going. Not in a bad way, because I'm not like a horny bastard. It's just, sometimes it's nice to get that out of the way, and then you can go back to the conversations. So we got a taxi back to the gaff anyway. And who was at the door but her parents, welcoming me into the house. Now the father, big old moustache on him, and the mother, lovely woman, she welcomed me in and he welcomed me in, shake hands, and he gave me a couple of shots of mezcal. She was putting cheese into my mouth, and I got a small dose of the shits. So to cut a long story short, had to keep the old sex life up in blocks for about a week after, but you know what, it was well worth it. And the lesson I learned there is, whenever you do land into a new country, just make sure you know what you're eating. But I will tell you what, one of the best experiences of my life to go over there. Went over for a month. A few of the boys were saying, don't bother going over, like, you don't know anyone over there. But I said to myself, fuck it, I'm going to take a chance. And that's why social media is good like that. It's good to connect people from around the world. That's what it's been great for. But I'm kind of sick of the whole scrolling crack. I'm trying to cut down on my scrolling time. And anytime I find myself scrolling on the phone now, I step away. Now, for those of you that are wondering, myself and that lady, we went out for 3 years. And we were travelling back and forth the whole time. It was great times. In hindsight, great times. For those of you that are wondering, we dated for 3 years. I went over to Mexico 3 times. She came over to here 3 times. And then one of the times I was meant to go back to her and she was like, don't bother. So I was like, no, come on, please. No, don't bother. You sure? Yeah, don't bother. Fair enough then. And that was the end of my Mexican adventure. And that was all thanks to Facebook. So, in some ways it can be a good thing, but in other ways, this whole scrolling culture, I think, is a fucking waste of time, and I think I need to nip that in the bud, because I don't enjoy it. I just really am. I've come to the end of my tether with the whole scrolling cracking. Nothing to be got from it. It's the theft of joy, because you're looking at other people doing stuff, and you're thinking, this lad's flat out doing stuff, or this lad is creating this thing. So I think Facebook has got its good purposes, but there's a time and a place to step away from all that stuff. And the time is now, after you listen to this podcast. Speaking of getting outside, have you been outside much in the last while? Have you been doing any bit of power walking around the village, or a bit of exercise on the road or stuff like that? I'm living down in Mayo here now, so I went over to Achill there the other day. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. And on the way there, I also passed through a place called Ballycroy, which I will recommend to everybody out there. It's a beautiful park. It's an Irish national park. And it's not that big, but it's beautiful. You get a good view of the top there. There's a few castles there. There's a bit of ruins there where the Spanish Armada came cruising in. And it made me think a lot about the west of Ireland, how it's so windy out this way. Because it's, I don't know, but it's always been windy out this way. And ever since I was a child, just the wind is constant, and I'd love to live in a hot country like Mexico, but at the same time, you would get sick of the heat. Because there was one day I was over there in Mexico, and it must have been 3 weeks there, and it was just pure sun every day, and I had a great tan, in fairness to me. Well, I was kind of pinkish red, but I still felt like I had a great tan. But one day it rained, and I stood outside in the rain, and I just said, oh, thank the Lord for this. So there's that side of things too. But growing up in Mayo, constant rain, and it'd fucking drive you demented. And that's why never ending wind and rain and stuff like that. And it'd be nice to be living in a hot country all the time, but I suppose if there was sun here all the time, then the place would be wedged as well. So there is that side of things, But I read, sir, it's not a bad old spot, says you. Everyone's getting back into jobs now as well and getting back into commuting to work. It seems like they're going to lift all the restrictions. People are going to get back busy and commuting and cars on the road and people taking the train into town, and the subway is going to be busy across the world, and airplanes are going to be back on the road, and helicopters. Libby Walsh apparently has the helicopter on the go again, and the economy is going to be going again. The economy is going to get started again. The boom is a fair bit away now, but it's going to come back eventually, please God. And it got me thinking about work and different things like that. And you see, my father doesn't believe that this is a job that I have, this whole social media crack. And I don't really blame him, because if I try to explain to my father uploading a video to the internet is a job, he'd look at me like he never even had me. He'd look at me with a face that says, I want you out of this house as soon as you can. And don't ever think about darkening this door again, right? Do you hear me? My father was the first man to get me a job. He was the first man to get me a bike. He was the first man to get me a pair of football boots. He was the first man to give me a bottle of Lilt. And I thank him for all the firsts he's given me. But he got me a job, my first job ever. And it was the worst job I ever had in my life. It was a shit job. Horticulturist. Which sounds nice on the outside, but basically I was wheeling barrows of soil for some owl lad who was a gardener. He was taking all the big coin, and I was just his little pawn. £15 a day he was giving me to wheel barrow loads of fucking stones and soil and be doing up gardens, and he had all the nice jobs. If there was a digger there, he'd be driving it. If there was a bobcat, he'd be driving it. If there was a tractor lawnmower, he'd be driving it. I had to carry everything. And we'd work long days too. He'd collect me at 8 o'clock in the morning at the house, and we wouldn't get home till 5 o'clock that day. And not only that, he wouldn't even drop me to the house. He used to drop me at a pub. I was only like 15 or 16 at the time. He'd give me £15 and he'd drop me at a pub, and I'd be so wrecked that I'd walk into the pub, I'd have a few games of pool, I'd buy a couple of glasses of TK lemonade or something, and by the time I got home I only had about £8 with me. So I was working for £8 a day. These were long days. And it was torture. Now I know in hindsight, looking back, it was probably a good thing that I did that job, but would I do it again? Never. Never. There was no fucking off time at all. You'd work hard all day. You'd have a half an hour break. You'd have to sit in the front of the van with your man, and he wouldn't listen to anything else except the gardening news and the garden radio and all this other stuff. I didn't even know it existed, but like there'd be lads on about fucking how to lay paving and all this other stuff. I didn't want to be hearing that during my break time. And he'd be there talking away to me about gardening. I'm thinking to myself, I couldn't care less about gardening. I'm doing this because I have to do this. And we'd be going around different parts of Mayo, and I'd be picking stones and gardens, getting them ready. And it was the worst fucking job of my life. He'd pay me at the end of the day. He'd come over to the van. He'd have the £15 in one hand, and he'd have an envelope in the other hand. He'd put the money into the envelope in front of me. Then he'd hand me the envelope. There was no need for the envelope at all. And on top of that, he used to have a mate that would come into work only on Thursdays and Fridays. This fucking, I don't know where he came from. I think he was from Roscommon. And he'd come into work, right, and he'd have a purple jacket on him. Like something my sister'd be wearing. And he'd be fucking cruising around the gardens like he was some big shot, and he'd be pointing at people and telling them what to be doing. And one day I had a big argument with him. I said, "How come you never lift the wheelbarrow?" And he said to me, "I've done my time in the wheelbarrow, young lad." And that was the end of that. But it got a bit tense, and then I'll never forget it. Now, the fella that ran the company, the fella that employed me, he's passed away. Rest your soul, mate, right? But you still owe me 15 quid. And I don't know if I'll ever see that money, but that wasn't a nice thing what you did to me. This is what he did, right? It was coming to the end of the summer, and he said to me, "I've got no more work for you. But listen, my garden up the house needs a bit of doing." He brought me up to his own house. Massive garden, massive 2-story house. I had to fucking clean out all the shrubs and everything like that, weeding all fucking day. You know what he said to me? "I'll pay you tomorrow." Never seen the £15 cash. Never seen it. Never forgave me dad for that either. So the lesson I learned there on that day, if you're working hard, make sure you get paid on the day by. Anyways, they were the days as a lesson and everything. Now, in other news, Paul Mescal, the lad that acts in Normal People, the lad that everyone wants a piece of, everyone wants a taste of Paul Mescal. Well, he, in fairness to him, he's been walking around recently. I don't know where he's living, because it's not that warm, Paul, but you've been walking around in O'Neill's shorts and people taking pictures of you. And you've been called a style icon by GQ. And you're showing off your sexy minute legs, aren't you, Paul? And in fairness to him, he's bringing a lot of heat to O'Neill's. And now, GA shorts are famous across the world thanks to Paul and me, if you want to go like that, because to be honest, listen, I don't want to take the credit, Paul, right? But I have been wearing GA shorts for long before you were born. Back in the 90s, the only thing I wore was GA shorts. Nobody called me a style icon. They just called me a piece of shit. But it's people like me, Paul, that made it easier for people like you to wear GA shorts in public, because they're not for everyone. They're very short shorts. They don't really leave a whole lot to the imagination. There's a weird way they grasp or they clasp the balls. It's almost like it shows the shape of the willy. It really does show the shape of the willy. And they're very loose. Like if you're jumping up for a ball in GA football, you can be guaranteed that at least one of your testicles is going to pop out. Now, I don't know, Paul, if you're wearing jocks underneath it. All I know is back in my day, no one had time for jocks. You were just free falling. And you'd be jumping up for a ball, your testicles would fall out, the referee would blow his whistle, but you're like, "No, I'm going to play on." Then you'd run up the field with the ball, you'd score a goal, and you'd win the game for the team. You didn't care about testicles. But now people want to sexualise you, Paul, and turn it into some sort of big, I don't know, filthy game. Well, there was none of that talk when I was wearing them. Fair play to you though, Paul. And this is not me being jealous, if that's what you're thinking. So let's nip that in the bud straight away, will we? Because the shorts I was wearing were very short. Honestly, to the point where the cops pulled me over once, Paul, and they said, "Why have you got no pants on?" And I said, "Hey, none of your business, boys." And I drove off down the road, and then I played the football game that day, scored a goal, and we won the game again. That never happened. I was fairly shy to GA football, if I'm deadly honest. My teacher / manager, Mr. Carney, never had time for me. So thanks to him, I've lost out on being on Normal People and being the one that everyone's talking about. Nobody's selling my shorts for £494. I mean, Gucci selling shorts for £494. How does that work? How are they condoning such prices? I never understood that. I mean, I know the quality's probably great. I know there's probably no chafing off the testes, or there's no interference with the gooch. But £494 for a pair of fucking shorts? Are you mental? And I tell you one thing, if you're buying those shorts for £494. Good luck to you, because you're in for a world of pain, and you better be a confident man, because trust me, you jump around the place or you get out of the car, it's going to pop out. That's all I'm saying, right? So just be careful if you do buy them. Fucking Gucci. What have they got to do with the GEA? Why don't they pump a bit of money into the Mayo team if they're that big? Anyways. So what's the story with this weather? Somebody get Greta on the phone, because I'm fucking done with this weather. It's summertime. Someone has forgot to do the books right, or someone has done something wrong. The weather should be better than this. The ice caps are melting, which is not good. But surely to God, we get a bit of fucking sun, no? I was outside today, got soaked. You know when the front of your jeans get soaked and it looks like you pissed yourself? That's how I was today. And not only that, the wind was on top of me too. Just grabbing me, pushing me around the place, wrecking me head. I also wear glasses, so they were all fogged up. I couldn't see anywhere. This is summertime. I mean, what's going on with the weather? Greta, can you tell me? Please, someone, can you tell me what's going on? I need to know. I want to get a tan. And the way things are going, I'm going to have to get a fucking sunbed into the house. More money for Bezos. Checking online there yesterday. 400 quid a pop. That's for the lower level as well. And then add to that, then I've got to get the carrot juice to get the real proper colour. So something's going to have to give. I'm either going to have to start wearing Saint Tropez, I'm going to get the sunbed, or I'm going to move into fucking Mexico. And those three things are probably not going to happen, but I'm going to have to do one of them. I hope if you're listening to this in, Somalia or Australia, Argentina, Brazil. I've got a big fan base there in North Korea as well, and South Korea. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves, because over here it's fucking windy, boys. Apparently, they test out drones in the west of Ireland because it's that windy. And when you walk around the place, it's just, in and out of shops. No wonder people are in the pub so much, because it's the fucking wind. I don't mind the rain. It's the wind that really, tries to make a name for itself. But I was walking around today, and you know what I noticed? Loads of old houses, empty houses around Mayo, spooky houses. I seen a house today, and there was curtains inside the house, and there was blinds, and all the windows were smashed in, and the walls were all low looking, and the walls were all old looking. But I had a good look in the window because I'm a nosy bastard. And there were stools and tables and kind of old enough stuff, but very scary. 2-story as well. And it kind of reminded me of a time myself and my cousins, we used to go exploring, and my brother too. I was the youngest of the lot, and that meant that I always had to go first. And we'd go around to houses, and we'd be, they're always abandoned houses, but we'd be going in there and we'd be looking around the drawers, and you'd always get a funny old musky smell, or a musty smell. Not a musky smell, that's Elon Musk. That lad's on my mind the whole time. But a musky smell. Or a musty, I don't know, what is it, musty or musky? Don't know. They smelled badly anyway, these houses. But I was out exploring before my cousins in Claremorris, and I'll never forget the time that we went into a 2-story house. We went up a ladder, 2nd floor job, in the window. We got inside the house, all the rooms were dark, very dark. Walked around the house, opened up the door, into another room, the hallway, into another room, bedroom, and you could see that nobody lived there for a very long time. But it was scary. All the windows were smashed in, but there was books and a couple of pairs of socks thrown around the place. And I'll never forget it till the day I die. I could hear creaking all over the house. Now, I don't know if that was my cousins playing games with me, but that was the beginning of my fear of houses. And then the worst thing ever happened to me in my life. Well, no, not one of the worst things, because, to be honest, there's a lot worse things going on in the world. And when I say it now, it's going to sound stupid. Somebody started revving a car outside. That's it. But that was enough to scare me. So we legged it. We went back to the room that we came in. And we slid down the ladder. Now this house was falling apart, abandoned. Maybe there was no sound of a car at all, but my memory tells me there was. And so my cousins went out the window first. The oldest cousin, then the youngest cousin, then my brother, and then last but not least me. And I tell you one thing, I was within an inch of pissing myself. There was drips coming out. And that's not me being crude, that's just a fact. I really do believe it was at that point that I lost most of the muscle power in my bladder. Gone. Damaged my bladder for the rest of my life. Thank you very much, cousins. I was the last one down the ladder. Even though I was the youngest, I was the last one down the ladder. And I slid down the ladder. I'll never forget it. Slid down the ladder, right? Cut all my hands, but I didn't care. Didn't feel the pain. I was so scared. And I legged it after my cousins. And I passed them all out. And I was fucking raging with the fear. Because my hands were cut. I was scared. And I damaged my bladder beyond repair. All for what? Bit of exploring, a bit of kids messing. Did you ever see that movie, Stand By Me? A bit like that. Now, I asked you guys, did you have any phobias on Instagram? A phobia is a type of anxiety disorder defined by a persistent and excessive fear of an object or situation. That's what it says on Wikipedia. You can have phobias of lots of different things. Spiders, clowns, insects, I've already said that. Heights, monsters, characters from Sesame Street. You can have phobias of anything. Just want to be clear though that a phobia and a fear are very different. A fear is when you're just scared of something. I'm fucking scared of hard work. But a phobia is when the fear is so bad that it affects your day-to-day life, affects all of your life. So, with saying that, what kind of phobia do you have? Is it a fear or is it a phobia? And there's phobias and fears of everything. Do you have a fear? Do you have a fear of tractors? Now, a fear is an emotional response to a real or perceived threat. Do you have a fear of hard men? Do you have a fear of men in vests walking around town late at night? Or do you have a phobia of them? A phobia is similar to a fear with one key difference. The anxiety they experience is so strong that it interferes with their quality of life and or their ability to function. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat shouting, "Get off me," and then you wake up and there's no one there, but you're after having a dream that a man in a white vest has been wrestling you? A big bully. That ever happen to you? Is that a phobia you have? Then you wake up in the morning and you're shaking because you're getting nightmares about the lad from school, the big boy, the lad that hit puberty first, the lad that was 6'4" when he was 12. To be honest, I don't know, is that a phobia or a fear? Probably, if it's affecting your life day to day, it's a phobia. When I see a spider, I get a small bit scared. but it's not a phobia. It's a bit of fear. When I was a child, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a pool of piss because I was scared of the water. Mammy, get in here. I'm after pissing myself again. What's wrong, love? Oh, look at the fucking sheets. I'm after doing a number on them. Oh God, you must have a fear of water. No, ma'am, it's a phobia. Now get out of my room. Now, I asked you guys, did you have any phobias on Instagram? Some of the responses were top drawer. Some of them, even looking at the responses, scared me. Ladybirds was one of them. From Katie, that scared me. Reverend Revy said, I'd fear a boomerang coming back, but sure I'd rise to the challenge anyways. Good on you, Revy. Fair play to you. Who else? Ronan says open water. I was the same. Constantly wetting the bed. The Hut 33 said, I can't walk on the sawdust floors in butcher shops. I don't know, is that a phobia? I know what you mean though, because once you feel that kind of underneath your feet, it's a bit creepy. I get the same crack with sand, wet sand. If I put my hands into wet sand, just the hair on the back of me neck and my sack stands up, and it's not good. But a lot of birds, people giving it about different birds that they've got phobias of, like eagles, seagulls, swans, large crows. One fella said, ever since my granny disappeared in the 90s, I've had a phobia of large crows. I don't know how they're connected, but I hope and I pray that a couple of large crows didn't come along and swoop up your granny and bring her up into the nest in a tree up there somewhere. But if they did, in some ways, your granny might be having a great time up there in the nest, looking down on all of us, watching us as we're pottering around the place, and she's up there eating crow food, I suppose. What else we got here? Big heights. Yeah, I'm with you there on that one, Steve. Fear of the woof woof. The Sligo boys still have it. Barry Winters, you're dead right. That old woof woof is dodgy stuff. Stay well clear of the woof woof. Another phobia Tommy Forkin has is the mother coming back from the shop without a bounty. Don't be eating bounties. They're fucking shite bars. Got too much coconut going on in the bounty. Get a Snickers for yourself, or get a Twix. Because Twix is actually, that's where the action's at. Get yourself a Twix, will you? Never mind bounties. Twixes are delicious. And not only that, you get two of them. But then again, you get two bounties, so kind of goes against everything I've just said there. But you know what I mean, though, because... But you know what I mean, though, don't you? Because the bounties are only small, little, chunky bits of chocolate, and there's too much coconut in it. I've said it before. Move on. Get yourself a Lion King or a Lion Bar. Get yourself a Lion Bar. Jason Flanagan, the Hulk, should the bastard walked into my room when I was 6 or 7, and I still have the image burned into my head. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because there was a cartoon back in the 90s, and there was a TV show where some lad would be walking around town, and then he'd get a fit of rage, and he'd burst into this green monster, and he'd rip off all of his clothes. And that kind of freaked me out too. There was a couple of people from the 90s that really freaked me out. And Hulk Hogan, Jason, was one of them. I'll have to agree with you on that one. That's a good one. Hulk Hogan, Wurzel Gummidge. Sorry, I just said Hulk Hogan. I meant to say the Hulk. Two very different people. Two big boys, but two very different people. What else we got going on here? It seems a lot of people have phobias about animals. There's two here. Moths make me want to pack up and leave. I don't blame you. I've often worried that someday I look out the window of the house and there's just going to be one massive moth coming towards me with massive wings the size of a Ryanair plane. And I'm like, no, get the fuck away from me. Moths, I don't know, I just don't trust them. The nocturnal creeps. Why are they up at night time? What are they planning? Why can't they be more like the butterfly? Beautiful and sexy. And I'm going to stick with this, and this is the final one. Hiskey 1993 said, I was afraid of horses. I tried to feed a donkey at the circus once and my whole arm went into his mouth. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. Did you put it in there? Did he grab it? Why was there a donkey at the circus? I know they have elephants and tigers and lions and monkeys playing balls and monkeys juggling, people jumping through hoops and all this stuff, but donkeys? I don't think they have donkeys at the circus. So I think you're lying to me. But I do know what you mean about animals when you're feeding them, taking a good fucking bite out of your arm, because animals, they don't care. If they see the food, they don't care. I had the same problem with a cock growing up. Me and my parents, we had a cock. We shared a cock growing up. It was about 2 feet. And it was like kind of a pinkish white one. And I remember one time I went outside and said to my parents, I'm just going outside to feed my cock. And naturally enough, my father said, be careful, because the cock might bite. And I went out then anyways, and I think I had a handful of porridge for him. And I was feeding him, and the porridge ran out, and the cock wasn't happy. And he jumped up at my face, and his foot, one of his feet, I don't know if it was left foot or right foot, went into my mouth. And he tried to take a peck out of my fucking head. And I just hit him with an elbow. And he went down, but he still kept running after me. And I had to run inside, and I said to my parents, I don't want my pink cock anymore. Just wanted to read off 2 more. Just wanted to read 3 final phobias, because these 3 are important. Alan Fahey said, Eddie Hobbs, that's his phobia. I completely agree with you, Eddie. Or Alan, I mean. I completely agree with you. Eddie Hobbs is an economist. I can't even say that word right. Eddie Hobbs is an economist. And he never told us the fucking last crash was coming. And yet he was all talk saying, invest in this shite, invest in that shite. Eddie, you never fucking apologise, mate. This one I have to read out too. My huge lad slipping out from under my Roscommon GA shorts when I go for a pint. Kiss at the end as well. That comes from Laura Callanan. And I was saying that earlier on, Laura. You're dead right, because those shorts were all good and well, but at the back of your mind, you kept worrying that if I play too good and I keep running up the field here, something might pop out. That's why I kept saying to my manager, take me off. And he's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, my flute's after popping out. But he never listened to me. He just said to me, no, you're the best player this team's ever had. Just continue to play. Continue to do what you're doing. If you continue to do what you're doing, you will become the best footballer in the world. And I was on that path. Just like Michael Jordan was in the basketball, except I discovered cigarettes, hash, pints at the tender age of 16. And that put all that in the back foot. Thanks to those guys, much appreciated. That was very nice of you. I really do appreciate you all sending me in those responses. I love to be able to talk to you. It's one of my favourite things to do in the world. And we all do it, all the top ones do it. Myself, The Rock, and that's it though, really. Thank you very much for the responses there, folks. It truly means a lot. It's great to get the old feedback as well, see what's going on, see how people are scared, because a problem halved is a problem destroyed. Did you ever hear that one? And also, if you want to get in touch with me again in the future, do hit me up there on Instagram, Owen Colgan Fitness. And no, don't laugh, because anytime I tell someone the name of that page, they start laughing. Oh, it's called Fitnesses. Yes, it is called Fitness. What's your problem with that? Oh no, I just thought that it was a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's 100% serious. Oh yeah, but it's just that you look a bit... I look a bit what? What do I look a bit? You don't look like you're in shape. Oh no, now the truth's coming out. Well, why don't you fuck off? I'm not in bad shape these days at all. So you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. Owen Colgan Fitness. Keeping it. But no, thank you very much for the correspondence. I much appreciate it. And this is the final one. This is a man who I've had many a session with around Dublin, different spots, Claremorris. Good memories together. from my true cousin, Liam. He said he's got a phobia of wardrobes. My cousin locked me into one so I could get into their gang. Now what Liam's getting at there is not him getting locked into the wardrobe, but me. There was an old house there beside my cousin's house, and we used to go over there just looking around, being nosy, and there was an old press in there. And apparently, to get into the gang being my two cousins and my brother, some gang that would be I had to go into the press or a cupboard, and they had to bang it and start shaking it for 20 minutes, and then I think I was left in the house for like a couple of hours in the dark. Now this house, there was ghosts. The place was fucking riddled with ghosts. I think I lasted about 10 minutes. And I have to say, big shout out to my cousin, because not only is he great crack, and I have a lot to thank him for all the old stories of adventures, but also I wet the bed till I was probably 9 thanks to him. And anytime I go for a piss now and I look down at myself, I think of him. And ever since that day, I've had a small fear of lots of things really. Houses, abandoned houses. When I hear a car getting revved from a distance, it scares me. What else am I scared of? I'm scared of creaking. I'm just really scared of old houses. And Mayo is riddled with them. Riddled. Every which way you look. But I'll tell you one thing to counteract that point. I think, and you can let me know what you think. You know the way everyone crams into the city? That's the way it's been for the last 30 or 40 years. Everyone wants to be in the city. That's where you can make all your dreams come true. I'm going to become the big man in the city. Trust me, I know. I was there myself. You start wearing tighter clothes, you start drinking coffees on the go. You don't have any time for tea. You don't have any time for tea. No time for shopping. Everything is go because you've got bills coming in. So you need to start making money. You need to become a man around town. And you find yourself running around the place. People are looking to take the apartment off you. They'll pay you more money. They'll pay the landlord more money. But this is what's going to happen, right? With this whole coronavirus crack. People are going to be scared to be standing around other people. You see it now everywhere. Don't come near me. You might have the coronavirus. Don't be sneezing around me. Don't be coughing around me. Why aren't you wearing gloves? Why aren't you wearing a mask? People will not want to be in the cities anymore. The cities, in fairness to them, they're great crack. The pubs are great. They're always busy. You go down to a cafe, you get yourself a nice fucking chicken roll. Lovely. But I'm telling you this, they're broken. The cities are not working anymore because there's too many people in them. There's too many people vying for the same chunk of chicken. And there's not enough chicken to go around. So you need to step back. And I guarantee you this. Mark my words. And Eddie Hobbs won't tell you this because that man's making a few pound. Or Dave McWilliams of the boys. The country houses are going to get expensive because 5G, fast internet, but working from home. People are going to be working from home on their laptops, sending emails, programming from the gaff. So no one's going to be travelling. People are still going to be travelling into the city, but not like they used to be. Because let's face it, who the fuck wants to be sitting in 2 hours of traffic to go into a job, only to do the same thing on the way back home? Oh, the rage that you have when you're in that car and some lad's trying to pull out in front of you and you're like, I've been here for a fucking hour and a half, will you fucking move the car? And the anger inside those fucking 4 doors of a Toyota Starlet or a Honda Civic or a Toyota long wheelbase Jeep. I'm a big Toyota man. The best built cars in the world. They should never have changed that saying. I don't know what it is now, but it's something different. It's like time of the future or something like that. But I'm sticking with the best built cars in the world. Well, they were up to a point, but then you know the way things go. It's like phones or washing machines. They were good once upon a time, and then now they just want you buying, which is the reason why the cities are all overcrowded. People are producing stuff that they don't need. We've all got too much shite. So people are going to go back to living in the countryside. All these abandoned houses are going to be taken over, wallpapered, painted. They're going to be putting in fucking plunge pools, Sky TV, cable, 5G. Lads are going to be getting fucking chips put into their brains. Why? I don't know. Well, that's it, folks, for another week. Thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you have any messages or correspondence, or you want to get in touch, slip into my DMs on Instagram, and I'd love to hear from you. Send me your voice notes, send me your letters, send me pictures of you, and send me whatever you want. Would love to chat to you. I want to make this just as much about you as it is about me. And I know I said social media is a waste of time, but please, just this once, do it for me. God bless, Jah bless, and I'll see you on the far side. Hello there, lovey. What's the problem? Hello? Yes, hello. What's the problem? I wanted to report a couple of youths. All right, go on. Tell me more. No, it's just that, you see, on a Sunday, I like to drive into town, do my bit of shopping. I park up in Tesco. I park a nice distance away from the shop, not to bother anyone. And I walk into Tesco. I take my basket, I put the euro into the trolley, and I walk around and I take my bits. And I like to get a nice mixture of fruit and veg, meat, although I'm trying to give up the meat. Right. But what's this? Will you let me finish, please? Sorry. As I was walking around Tesco, I was in the frozen veg aisle, and 3 youths walked in, and they walked down the corridor towards me. I had my basket full of my shopping, and I was on the home stretch. I was about to vacate the premises, back into my car, back into my house, not to bother anyone. And these 3 youths walked past me, and I'll never forget the words that they said to me. They said to me, "Do you know Sheryl Crow?" I said, "Of course I know Sheryl Crow. Fabulous performer. Just fabulous." "What about her?" And they said to me, "Do you know her famous song, 'All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun'?" I said, "Of course I do. It's a great song. One of her best." So then the 3 of them stood around me in a triangle formation, and they sang to me, "All I wanna do is bum your ma. I got a feeling I ain't the only one." And then they looked at me and they started laughing. And I thought to myself, despicable. That wouldn't have happened in my day. That 3 youths could stand around me in a triangle formation and sing the words, all I wanna do is bum your ma, at me as I was doing my shopping, minding my own business. Now, I have a life. I had stuff in that trolley that was for people more vulnerable than me. I'd cake for my neighbour, and I'd sweets for my neighbours. But these 3 young boys, local lads too, stood around me in triangle formation and sang the words, all I wanna do is bum your ma. I got a feeling I ain't the only one. I just thought to myself, is that what we've come to? No fucking respect